Hello world, I'm here today to talk a little bit about my street photography. I've done a little bit while I've been poorly. I did actually in the end have a little walkie around London, did a tiny bit of Christmas shopping as well. I took with me my Canon 750D, um, and I also took my 85mm and 17 to 55mm lenses. Okay, my 85mm one is the junior one. It's the f1.8. There is a very good f1.2 with an L. It's an L lens, which is their premium kind of thing, but it's also very expensive. Okay, the 85mm f1.8 is a good lens, and it's a lot cheaper. Okay, so with that out of the way, I just thought I'd talk a little bit about what's going through my head sometimes when I'm doing these things. Okay, now the picture that you see, this is all from my Flickr site, as you can tell, but the picture that you can see in front of you there, normally when I arrive at where I'm going to take photographs, and my idea here was Regent Street and St James's. I just have to take a photograph, and so she was my target. Okay, I'm normally just sort of milling around taking photographs of buses or taxis or buildings or something like that, and then suddenly I'll see something and just shoot it. Okay, and I delete all the boring photographs that I've taken. Um, and yeah, and I'm just left with that. So that was this woman here. Okay, yeah, nothing special, but there we go. She's there just as an example, really, of me having to just sort of work my way into it. Okay, and again with this shot, really, although it's a lot sharper, it has to be said. You could probably tell there's probably camera shake going on here. It's probably why I'm nervous or something. What were we on? 1/125th at on the 85mm lens. With that 85mm lens is roughly 130mm in 35mm equivalent. So yeah, the shutter speed was probably a little bit slow as well. Perhaps if I'd opened my aperture out a little bit. So yeah, that's possibly why that was a failure. And always annoys me. Stop it. That's better. Right. Okay, so yeah, this is better. Why is it better? Um, for a start, we've got our aperture open a little bit. We've got a faster shutter speed, and he's nice and sharp. Okay, I also managed to get closer to him. Okay, as you can see, he wasn't looking directly at me, so it was quite easy. And people, by and large, they either don't notice, or they do notice and they smile and they're happy, or um, they just they never ever really get grumpy. Some of them try and duck out of the photos, but very very rarely do you ever get anyone complaining about you taking photographs. Okay, and for me, this is the communication with him. Okay, all street photography for me is an exercise in communication, even if I'm not talking to the person. um, it's that there is kind of a dialogue going on here. Okay, and here's one here is probably don't really want an awful lot to do with your photograph or something, I don't know, but yeah, I just liked his hat and coat basically. It's a nice picture. It's lovely and sharp as well. Same, I was looking on the lookout for people dressed like gentlemen. Okay, and then I found this chap here. um, I'm not sure, are those jeans he's wearing? Yeah, it doesn't quite, the look doesn't quite go off there, but then again, who am I to talk? But yeah, um, it's just a nice pleasing picture. um, Nice pleasing person in it, really. I took this photograph just because my photo buddy Mark seems to be taking a backseat on the photographs at the moment, at least in terms of being uh, a prominent uh, internet presence on, with his website and everything. I think he's decided to become a stormtrooper. instead. So I took that photograph there, basically, with these 3 high society ladies gabbing away. I do like her coat, actually. It's very nice. The royals in Hamleys, lovely, lovely, just very made out of Lego. And there you see, there's your exercising communication there. We've got a wave from him that was surprisingly hard to take. And the best I could do about that lamp, which was spoiling everything, was this shot really here. And I like the fact that there's a mere minion, a pleb, in the background there, whilst the royals are waving off the balcony. Hamley's employee there, is his name Luke? It looks like his name's Luke. Yeah, he's doing some sort of magic or something there. Again, this is all with my 85mm on. That's stunningly sharp. It's lovely. He's obviously enjoying chatting to a customer there, and I just dived in there, took that photograph. Basically, yeah, because it's lovely. Okay, what am I on there? You see? Oh, golly. My shutter speed was very slow there, even at f1.8. But I didn't bump my ISO up too much. I had to later on, but yeah, I didn't there, and it's worked out really nice actually. There must be the image stabilization in the lens, because although it is the lowly cousin of the f1.2, it's still got image stabilization. And look, the bokeh is beautiful. Okay. Another employee there. You can see I'm struggling now. I've not quite got the sharpness in the eye there that I wanted there, but yeah. That's just lovely. I just happened to be on the escalator on the way down. Saw that, grabbed the camera, flick, boom. Yeah. Another exercise in communication there, this time between each other, excluding the world by shooting the backs of them. You know, and I've also added a vignette around the edge there, just to kind of make it their little secret kind of bit of space, really. Here's this happy chappy blowing bubbles outside. Again, you see now the autofocus on the Canon is very good. Okay, on the 750D, it's 19 points autofocus. It's still not absolutely perfect, but yeah, I took 2 photographs of him, and the first one focused on the bubbles rather than the chap who was blowing them. So yeah, I mean, I suppose it would be, you know, it's a bit of an artistic preference there, but I prefer the one where he's nice and sharp. Okay. I'm just looking out for the point where I put my ISO up here. This is just a lovely creamy picture. Just love the colours. There's something very traditional about that. There's something, you know, it could almost, you know, have come out of, you know, what's that chap's name? Lord, can't remember his name. That's terrible. But there's a photographer for the Royals back in the 70s and 80s who used Olympus cameras. And I can't remember who he is now. But he's one of my favourite photographers. And, you know, these sort of colours, you know, these creamy colours remind me of him. Or sort of Kodachrome, maybe, of the 70s. There's just something just sort of nice and traditional about that. Aha, had to grab that one. It was just luck that I've got the green of the Wicked and the green of his hat there, but he was enjoying himself. He saw me taking the photograph, and you can see he's smiling. You know, it's just a lovely moment there, and that's what I like, really. I just like sharing little happy moments with people. Sometimes it doesn't come off. Sometimes you know, sometimes you get people at their worst, but yeah, that's lovely. I just think it's really sweet. And this one, I don't recommend you do this in the middle of London, but I was standing in the middle of the road. Thankfully, I'm on the 85mm still. Yep, I'm on the 85mm. And the traffic was being held up, and you've got a closer view. I mean, I'm not being run over by those cars. But yeah, somehow or other, there's just a beautiful, gorgeous light coming off. It's the artificial lights really from all these decorated trees here, but it's just made everything look just, you know, even though you've got all this traffic there, it still feels like, you know, there's a calm picture. And I think it's, you know, the form of these angels here, plus you've got traditional London in the background. I did take one from a portrait perspective, and I actually sat down in the road to do it, but I preferred this one. Sometimes it isn't worth risking your neck to get a good photograph. But yeah, I just think that's I just adore that picture. It's gorgeous. This is just another one where I'm just sort of shooting away. I'm now in Jermyn Street. I actually found it quite difficult in Jermyn Street, really. I was using my 85mm for a lot of it, but then I wanted to take views of the shops and things, and even standing on the other side of the road, it's a narrow street, and it just couldn't take in and sort of, you know, get in what I wanted to get in. So yeah. See, it's a nice, you know, a lovely, nice traditional photo. My pet hates in any kind of street photography are bins, bollards, roadworks, and, you know, sadly they're everywhere, but thankfully in this one I managed not to. I don't know, I mean, I'm obviously standing on a bit of an angle here, but I don't know whether that's kind of distortion in the lens. But we are now on the 17 to 55, which is an absolutely gorgeous lens. It's the step up from the standard kit lens that you get, and it's got an f2.8 aperture all the way throughout the zoom lens, which is very expensive to try and do, which is why the kit lens is the kit lens. Basically, it basically, as you zoom in, the aperture gets smaller and everything gets darker. Okay, yeah, and I've bumped my ISO up because I was finding it quite difficult again to get people sharp, because, you know, it's getting slightly later. You know, it's only about sort of 1 in the afternoon or something, but the light, you know, just, you know, in the winter it's, you know, it's quite hard. So yeah. Yeah, and again here, I love Harvey and Hudson. Lovely clothing. Look at that tie, it's fantastic. What I really wanted to do, and what I should have perhaps persisted in doing, was to try and take a photograph of that shop and blur out a passerby, and deliberately blur out a passerby, and it's only partially worked there. So we've got the shop in lovely focus and he's slightly defocused, but yeah, I mean, it's not the kind of person I wanted. But the thing is, it was quite quiet yesterday, and you know, not many people around, so yeah, I'm left with that. It means I've got an excuse to go back. One day I'll go back and I'll actually have some money and be able to afford to buy something in Harvey and Hudson. But yeah, yeah, I love them. Brilliant shop. Okay. I took this picture. I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. The expression on both of their faces is absolutely priceless. She is in a terrible mood, absolutely in a terrible mood, and she's wearing an animal by the looks of things, which, you know, you'd have thought that if you're wearing an animal, that you don't want to dye it lurid green and then have pink hair and orange lipstick. It really, no, sweetheart, sorry love. But you see, his hands are clasped around these bags. They're obviously pissed off because they've been Christmas shopping, and basically you just get exhausted and tired going around London. So he's being the pack horse here. She's got absolutely nothing in her hands, but she's clenching her fists as if she's going to kill someone. I mean, you know, they've obviously had a really nice time. But yeah, okay. And if ever this lady sees this video, I'm sorry, sweetheart. I'm sure you're a very nice lady and all. Yeah, sweet. Space around. Sadly, what have I got here? Electricity things, whatever that is there with this, with the white thingy on there. But yeah, you've just got lovely space around here. Okay, and we're next to the church. Those two, I'm going backwards, I think. No, I'm not. Those two are gone. Those two are gone by now. So we're so he was basically my next customer. And yeah. Again, you see he's looking right at the camera, and he's not got a problem with me taking his photograph. It's quite nice having someone that looks like Captain Peacock up here. Not sure what that shop is there, but yeah. We've got Captain Peacock of Grace Brothers there. Probably was Grace Brothers at some point. Love this guy's scarf and just the overall image that he's got there. It's a shame. This is another one of my pet hates. It's such a shame that when there's someone behind that's kind of disturbing the shape, but I had to take that picture. I took a few, and that one was one of the best. Yeah, because the way I work, I just have to grab. I've literally got a second or two to take the picture. I never ever really hang around and explore when I'm doing this sort of photography. When I'm out at Cornwall taking photographs of landscapes and whatever, I'll take tons of pictures and just choose my very favorites, but you know, try different apertures and you know, and try it portrait, try it this way, whatever. You haven't got that kind of time here. You know, you've just got to take your photograph and move on. And yeah, you know, sometimes it works quite well and sometimes it doesn't. But there's Charles Tyrwhitt, and they're my favourite affordable but high society clothing shop, basically, because I'm not really high society at all, but I do have pretensions, basically. Yeah, you see, he looks like he could have just been to Charles Tyrwhitt. Yeah. I'm not quite sure here. I mean, my ISO is 800, so we're getting a little bit of grain coming in here, but I'm not quite sure. You know, the focusing here on his face seems a little bit soft. It seems sharper on his clothes, and it even seems sharper in the doorway. But if I try and zoom in a little bit, yeah, you see, it's not quite got it, has it? It's made a good attempt. I'm moving, he's moving. So, you know, that's kind of sometimes the price that you have to pay, I think. And this one, I like this photograph. I just loitered around. I was just taking photographs of limos and things that were parked up on the street round about here where my pointer is. But yeah, I saw those two in their coats and just thought that was a nice one, really. Just a nice little shot. Turned round, took the photograph, moved on. He's giving her directions, but she is distracted by me. He's not, but she's distracted a little bit by me and is wondering why I'm taking a photograph, but then I just walked off and moved on. And then I saw this chap here. Basically, he was smoking his fat cigar there. I mean, you know, talk about man in the middle. That's an ABBA reference, by the way, if you're watching this and you weren't born in the last century. But yeah, yeah, it's I just thought, you know, this is where in Jermyn Street, this is where, and St James's, that all of the kind of business people that can afford to will nip out of a lunchtime, sometimes a long lunch, and discuss the business, you see. So what have I got here? I framed him. I've absolutely, and I did this on purpose, and I actually did, I admit, throw my hands up in the air, I did crop this picture to get, I had to straighten myself out here. I used the live view on this because he didn't look like the kind of person that you would want to bump into on a dark night. And so I kind of used the live view. I took again a couple of pictures, just tapping the screen, whatever, tried to get the focus as clear as I could. It was slightly wonky, so I straightened it, which by default crops it, and I did, you know, just apply just a tiny little crop here. There's no vignetting or anything like that on here. This is just, you know, purely out of the camera. Look, the white balance has really worked very well, but you know, this you know, is giving you kind of the business aspect of it, and it's quite nice actually. It's quite nicely proportioned because the top of his legs are meeting and sort of in the same sort of plane as Fat Cat with the cigars table. I'm not making a comment about his weight. A fat cat, for those of you that don't know English slang, is basically a rich businessman. That's all. And yeah, it's just I just adore the composition of that. You can actually, because of the frame there, you can actually walk all the way down this street. You can see what's happening. You can see this guy's headphones here. He's having a chat. He's not being rude. The mobile phone's on the table so that he's not ignoring his thing here. Because these people here, these will be talking, yeah, hey, I can get you the numbers. What do you need? You know, they're doing all their, you know, whatever they do. We've got an empty bottle of water over here. We've got these two hiding behind here. Further down the street, you've got this gentleman here. It's just, you know, a wonderfully three-dimensional image. Okay, and that again is because I'm also on a wide aperture. What am I, f4, which is you know, lenses perform slightly better when they're not at their widest aperture. And for this, which is, I believe, what is it? Oh, it's the f2.8. It's f2.8 all the way down. So it's a couple of stops in, basically. And it just gives you, it just defocuses the background and brings everything that's nice and sharp in the foreground. And you can see that I'm doing lovely, lots of wavy hands around here. Well, actually, you can't, so thank goodness. Yeah, there's another one here. That's another one of my failures here. But I still like the picture. I still like the picture. It just, again, it shows you the kind of sort of area of London that you're in, really. This is where people can afford the finest clothing, the finest brandies, the finest cigars, and they jolly well spend it, as the last picture showed here. And you know, here we have our business portfolio. You know, he's probably talking about getting another 1,000 shares in Monsanto or something. And yeah, it's great. I just really like this picture. The only nitty-picky thing about it is that I've somehow or other chopped their feet off. But yeah, don't really like doing that. And again, this is a so-so picture, really. I was on the lookout for people smartly dressed, and these two are smartly dressed here. Again, you've got the laptop. Yeah, I'm taking these home for the weekend and, you know, working on my portfolio. Not sure really what I think about this, to be honest. I mean, traffic lights aren't the most romantic of frames for people. You know, it kind of you know, kind of brings you down, you know, from reality here. You know, you've got this is very traditional gents kind of thing, and then kind of you just landed back in the modern world of traffic lights and to let signs. He was walking so slowly, and I managed to get that one really sharp, basically because he was walking slowly, and I quickly blom one picture, boom, nailed it. I like it. I do like it. And again, we're not blighted too much by bins and things like that. There's one over there which is annoying me, actually. I think if I ever edited this photo again, I tend not to do too much editing to them, but if I, yeah, this isn't a crop or anything, but if I was going to edit it again, what I would do is just take the green out of the bin, because that's just distracting. You see, he's got a lovely green in his scarf there, really nice, and yeah, it's kind of being, you know, having this bit of this plastic bin bag upstaging it really. So yeah, that would be a candidate, or make it black and white, one or the other, or both, actually. Yeah, you see, this is everything that, you know, as far as I'm concerned, is letting a picture down, really. He's great. He's great. He's got no idea how to tie a scarf, but he's great. And, oh, sorry, I'm just sounding like a right bitch here, but I'm not really. I'm just, you know, whatever, just commenting, really. And, you know, everyone kind of, you know, people say worse. But, yeah, this roadworky thing here, I think it's emptying bins or something like that, and this gentleman here with his fluorescent yellow and stuff like that, and there's not really a huge amount you could do. Now I suppose that I could crop in and sort of round here and get kind of this, but then it throws him out of the photograph. He's in the right place in that photograph there, just to catch your eye. Even black and white, that's not going to solve the problem there. That is doing what I don't like in photographs. I like to make the world a nice, clean, happy place with my photography, and that just isn't. You know, it's just, you know, again, it's a reality check. You know, talk about communicating with the people there. He's just looking just a tad awkward about having his photo taken there. I was nearly going to call this disgruntled businessman of Jermyn Street, but I didn't. But yeah, he's just wearing a lovely suit, lovely press shirt, and you know, that red goes really nicely with that blue. It works ever so well. It's traditional. It's traditional. I love this gentleman here. He's obviously been for a few. His shirt's hanging out. He's not quite sort of on his feet really. You know, he's you know, yeah. And she's just looking on there, quite enjoying seeing me taking photographs, and she seems quite happy actually. Now, considering that, yeah, because this 17 to 55 millimeter lens is big. Okay, the 85 millimeter is tiny in comparison, and to someone that's perhaps not as up on their photography, they would imagine that the larger the lens, the more it's going to zoom in. So she's obviously on her best behaviour for that photograph, not really knowing that I wasn't actually taking a photograph of her. It was him. And these two here just happened to walk in to my picture. They're lovely and defocused. I love that. You know, it's not bokeh, it's just slight defocus, and you know, it's really nice. And again, we have this just lovely traditional London, really. You know, it could almost have come out of the 50s or 60s or something like that. Yeah, now it's getting dark. I went for lunch after I took that photograph, and stayed there rather a long time. And yeah, lovely meal I had actually. Quinoa salad with artichoke risotto to follow, and then I had some sort of, yeah, I had a sort of berry tart thing with a gorgeous ice. Well, it wasn't ice cream; it was a creamy sort of thing, but lovely laced with fruity flavours. Oh, sorry, I'm getting off the point here. I'm talking about food again. But look, here's tradition. You see, what have we got here? We've got a lovely telephone box. We've just got people, and I think I'm down on my knees there, pointing the camera upwards. I don't know what this thing is here that I've got in the way here, but that's just, you know, and it's just lovely and colourful, lovely, and I suppose because of the connotations that Carnaby Street has with the 60s, you know, we've got the psychedelic colours and love, kiss, and all this sort of, you know, hope and wish and all that kind of stuff. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. It's a shame really about Carnaby Street, because in the 80s I went down there. I've known my photo pal Mark for a long time, and I think we were about 15 or 16. We went down Carnaby Street We went shopping there, and then we went on to Virginia Water to go and get Gary Newman's signature, because that's where he was living at the time. And yeah, and Carnaby Street was a completely different place. It was, you know, it was boutiques and, you know, independent shops and stuff. Now it's just C&A and you know, Gap. Okay, bit later on. Now you see, I've arranged to meet a friend now. So I'm walking along Regent Street, up Oxford, and up to Oxford Circus. And the crowds of people, this is now, we're talking, it must be going on for 6 o'clock in the evening. And the crowds of people here trying to get onto the tube, but obviously Oxford Street is packed. It's not safe to let anyone else down there, so they're holding people outside. And look at them, just look at them. Now there was a comment actually on here. I do like it when people comment on my videos and on my Flickr page. Do come to my Flickr page. You can see all my details here, I think. Yeah, it's in my name there. But yeah, this chat here, Xmas shopping, held back and not a smile in sight. To make matters worse, a pile of Metros, super shop. Well, I'm really pleased that that Jeff Anderson liked it, and actually this bloke here, Michael Ivanov here, who I sent him a message. I hadn't had a reply back or anything, but he went on within about the first 5 minutes of these being up on Flickr and favorited tons of them, and I just, you know, I really value that support. So yeah, do come on here, even though you're seeing these here. If there's a picture that you like, then favourite it. If there's a picture you think, oh, he could have done better with that one, you know, try this or whatever, then comment on them, please. And, you know, but come on to Flickr and do it, because I just get some sort of perverse gratification for getting loads of views. And this one so far, I mean, it's only been up here a day, and yeah, we're on 108 views already, and you know, that's the most popular one so far. Okay, but yeah, look, you can just explore all these faces. And again, I took 2 photographs. I think I took 2 photographs by accident, because one thing that I tend to do as well is have my camera on burst mode. Normally a gentle push will get me 1 picture, and that's what I do most of the time. But for some reason, I must have just held it down for a fraction too long, and I got 2 photos basically of the same scene. But this one is the better one. And, you know, just explore the looks on their faces. Look, you see, I think he's mildly resigned to it all. She doesn't really care. She's a bit tired. He is just absolutely fed up with the whole thing. And look, you see his newspaper, Chaos Boss. Well, you know, chaos, you know, it speaks volumes really about what was going on the tube there. You know, that queue was right down the street going up towards John Lewis. It was just amazing, really, to see it. But yeah, you know, here's another interesting expression. I like her expression. There's something quite kind about that face there. She's, you know, I think she's just accepting the situation, really. Probably quite happy that she's sort of somewhere near the front of the queue. You know, this guy here is really fed up, and this one here is probably again thinking about his business deals. But yeah, it's lovely. I just, you know, again, you can just make up your story about that picture, and it is an exercise in communication. None of them actually saw me take that photograph. It was dark, and you know, what have I got my camera on now, folks? ISO 3200 here. I've got my aperture again not fully open, f3.5. I've only got 1/10 of a second there, so again the image stabilization must just be superb, because I haven't got the steadiest hand for taking photographs. Yeah, you know, there's possibly a little bit of evidence of camera shake, but let's go to full screen and see what the noise is like on there. Yeah, you know, you've got noise in the coats and things like that. but that is acceptably sharp. It's not critically sharp, but it's acceptably sharp within the f3.5 depth of field. She's going out of focus, she's going out of focus, but you know, these faces here, you know, and he could have just been cut out of a newspaper, you know, and stuck there. You know, it's, you know, absolutely critically sharp. And I, you know, the depth again of using that wide aperture, it really works very well. You know, if you're a, you know, starting out in photography, learn from this, that the wider the aperture, the more defocused your background is going to be, and the more punchy the foreground image will be. But you do need to make sure that your shutter speed is fast enough to freeze the moment, because a slight bit of defocus there will blur everything. You know, because not much of the photograph in terms of its depth is sharp, you have to be really careful to make sure that, you know, the bit that you want really is sharp, and it's very easy to be just slightly off, as you've seen. Okay, so here's John Lewis here again, and I'm still at ISO 3200 and loving it. Basically, I'm on my way to meet my friend now. My friend is taking I think he had to get 2 tube trains or something, basically, from work. And so I'm standing around outside John Lewis now, basically. You know, this is like on the way there. And, you know, do take these shots as well, especially if you've got a Flickr site, because people, there are like groups on Flickr that basically scour the sort of pool of photos there to get particular types of images. And I found, perversely, that shots with just shops in like this and street views, just general street views like this, people go for them. There's a website called Past London and London Streets, and London Shops as well, and they just add them to their groups, and you get the views, and you get a little bit of recognition for, you know, having gone out and taken that photograph, which is, you know, for me at the end of the day what it's all about, really. So yeah, here I am, out just on my way over to John Lewis. I'm standing around outside John Lewis now. He's there as well, with that dog on his shoulder, and he's been there for a few minutes. And again, you know, I say I very rarely take more than one photograph, but I had a chance to take a few. That one was probably about the sharpest. You know, the dog really wasn't going to cooperate with me here. Now, there's something about this composition which I really like, and it's to do with this rule of thirds. You've got this split here. Okay, here, going down here, hope you can see my cursor, by the way. We're going down here, down to this gentleman here, and the reflection here of the symmetry there. There, you're getting a lovely third. You've got the focal point, and he's tack sharp there. You know, again, you've got a bit of noise in his coat, but by and large, it's, you know, you're not bothered about it. And then you've got this lovely defocus bit here with his lovely colourful jacket that's sort of, you know, so you're going from these shades of green as well. You know, you've got a greeny grey on her coat as well. But, you know, in terms of the communication aspect here, I'm waiting for my friend. I don't know, maybe it's just a sign of my madness or something like that. I don't know. But when I start thinking, oh, I'm waiting for someone, I start getting quite lonely, really. And, you know, you get into a big crowd like this and you're on your own in it and no one's talking to anyone. And so, you know, rather than, you know, like in Hamleys, where I've got that lovely couple on the escalator and they're cuddling one another and they're, you know, and I've got a vignette and I'm, you know, capturing their little moment here. This one is just basically, to me, speaks complete alienation. I've got the back of him because I'm still not confident enough to say, please may I take the photograph of you and your dog. So I'm just taking that photograph of him. He's walking the other way. You can't see him at all. These two are talking. Well, actually, are they really talking to one another? No, he's twiddling away on his phone, isn't he? And even the dog isn't looking at me. And for me, as well as the, I suppose, the cute and cuddly aspect of the dog, um, and the general niceness of the composition there. And I do love this photograph, but for me, it also, I just see the kind of the sad side of it as well. It's, in many ways, it's not a happy picture. But yeah, that's just because I've had time to stand still, really. There's my friend that I was meeting out there. We're in John Lewis now, and basically he's debating about buying a Christmas tree. So he doesn't care. And really, I suppose this is not... You see, with this lens again, forgive me, I'm going to get this smaller again. I should have had it full screen for the whole thing, and I do apologise that it isn't. Sorry, I said make that smaller. You're not going to do it, are you? But basically, here I'm using the telephoto end of the 17 to 55. So you've got basically roughly a 90mm, nearly 90mm view, 35mm equivalent. I'm standing too close to him. It's not really the most flattering of portraits here. I'm sorry, Rob. But yeah, it's not really the most flattering of portraits to do to someone, except that's if you're doing a portrait. If you're doing street photography thing, okay, because everyone, they'll if there's someone here that knows themselves and knows that they're on my site or whatever, and they look at themselves and they go, oh god, I'll always look terrible in photographs, da, 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 da. But actually, no, you don't. You look lovely. Even that, obviously very fed up woman with her green fur on, you look lovely. You look absolutely lovely. And this is, it's not a personal statement. It's a communication, but it's not a personal statement, you see. Whether or not this gentleman here likes that picture or not, it's still interesting for, in terms of it being a person, okay? It's a person. The fact that I know this chap makes no difference, okay? I've got other photographs, of, selfies and all that sort of thing that are oh, let's be jolly and happy, okay? And we're not in a studio, we're not, trying to take the most flattering portraits. We're trying to capture a moment and capture a situation. And the fact that there's a person there, it's not a personal kind of, I don't know. It's a bit hard to explain, but yeah, that's just a deep and contemplative person, okay? And for me, whether or not the subject likes the picture or not, and I don't know whether he does or not, but whether or not he likes that picture, I like it. And that's all that matters, really. And I think whoever you are in my street photography, where, whatever, you all look fantastic. Okay, I just took the last couple of shots here of my friend, but again, look at that. Look at that bouquet in the background. That bouquet in the background, and that's just, again, it's superb. It's tack sharp. The ISO is still at 3200. The noise here, but I think probably because we've got enough light here, it's not so bad. It's not so bad. But again, because I've got this wide aperture, this shoulder here, this is what I mean by making sure that your focus is absolutely critical. This shoulder is minutely further forward than this one. And this one here is already going into defocused and bokeh, okay? And the way that, the gradients here, you see the early digital cameras, I mean, my first digital camera, I believe it was a Pentax Optio or something like that, and it was 3.1 megapixels, and it was a little compact thing, and it cost me more than, a top flight film camera. In fact, I think I got a digital SLR, no, not a digital SLR, a film SLR for less. than this Pentax Optio. And you know, looking back at them, you know, anything that was in the distance just looked like it was made of tissue paper, and that, you know, all the detail vanished. And you know, this is beautifully creamy here. I love it. There's a tiny bit of lens flare there because of the lighting, but it's, you know, again, it's kept well in check. It's really nice, and because it's Christmas and we've got these Christmas trees, this is, you know, it's almost like, you know, snow basically. You know, just sort of falling down, and it's just a really nice picture. And yeah, the fact that my friend also looks lovely in the picture is of no consequence. But whether or not he would agree with that, this is my artistic expression. It's not his. Okay, and yeah. And finally, yeah, him again. But again, you see, this is, you know, yes, it's my friend, but for the purposes of, you know, how I view my street photography, he could be anyone. He could be absolutely anyone. What is absolutely, for me, quintessential about that is that shaft of light coming down from here, illuminating the watches that he's looking at, the expression on his face. Okay, he's probably thinking of putting those inside Christmas crackers as cheap gifts for the ladies at his Christmas dinner and soiree. You know, will they do, or, you know, do I need to spend a little bit more, kind of thing. But yeah, you know, and yeah, again, I think I got 2 photographs of that again. I was on burst mode, but yeah, slightly, if you were nitpicking about this photograph at all, you know, and again, this is why I say your focus has to be absolutely critical, and it wasn't for this. But look, the tree there is in more focus than he is. Okay, he is just slightly. If I'd had a slightly narrower aperture, then it would all have been sharp. Okay, and what I really wanted was him tack sharp and the tree going off into a blur. Okay, but it's not quite worked, but it's still a lovely photograph. It still had a very positive reaction on Flickr, because those people viewing Flickr, they don't know you from Adam. What they see is just an artistic expression. And here you see, look, again, this is a lovely traditional. There's nothing here to spoil that view. It's beautiful. And actually, what I'm going to do, I'm going to tone this as a black and white, and I'll work quite hard on it. And I think, you know, my Christmas present to myself this year is to get that enlarged and framed and on the wall, because it's just beautiful, And yeah, I'm sorry if I sound like I'm kind of blowing my own trumpet, but I'm blowing the camera's trumpet, and I've also criticised myself as well. So, you know, hopefully, you know, I don't sound too arrogant and conceited. Okay, and this is basically all I have to say in this video. I hope it's not gone on too long. But yeah, do visit my Flickr site, please. It's mpierce661. I'll put the link in the description. And yeah, it would be lovely to hear people's comments, okay? I'm just a casual photographer. I don't wander around with my camera all the time. I just take it out when I feel like it. And as I've been starting to feel more human, and, you know, better as a person kind of thing, I've just felt the motivation to go out. Okay, because one of the things, you know, that I've basically have been feeling is not really the motivation to do anything, and, you know, so for me to get my camera out and go out and, you know, get on a train and do and go and take some photographs is, you know, it's good. Okay, and yes, Rob and I had a lovely drink afterwards. So yeah, right, I will see you later. Bye bye.